Welcome to Matrix360's Real Leader series in collaboration with Informa Canada. I'm Chandran Fernando of Matrix360. For those who are not aware, Matrix360 is a talent management and workplace strategy firm specializing in the commercial real estate and development spaces across Canada. Our main purpose is to truly dial up the conversation with action in regards to equity, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace and build the future of work. I'm very excited this afternoon to spend some time, just a short period of time, with one of Canada's key leaders in real estate. So Emily Hanna, partner of Crown Realty Partners. I'm very excited for this conversation. So thank you so much, Emily, for joining us. Truly an honor to have you here. So I want to just give you some context of our series that we started with Informa Canada. We purposely wanted to spotlight the importance of leadership and your stories. We truly believe that in order for us to build the future of Canada and the workplace, we truly need to understand the stories behind our current leaders. And it's a true honor, honestly, Emily, to have you share a little tidbit of your journey. So to kickstart the conversation, let's just go back a few minutes ago, right? When you were just entering the journey of your career. What was your career vision when you first started your journey?
Aside from actually just getting past my 90-day probationary period, really what I wanted to do was absorb every single aspect of the industry. I dove in and bit off anything that I could possibly chew. I really wanted to just understand every single portion of our industry. And that was my main goal at the time, was to just dive in and eat anything I could get my hands on.
So you were very curious to learn. You were like, let me just go in there and just go right to it and just
Yeah, I like to think that I
gather.
still am.
Yeah,
So,
which is
yeah.
great. So when you started this journey of diving in and understanding and gathering the information, were there any struggles or any frustrations that you encountered as you started picking up and becoming more knowledgeable in this industry?
So I guess one of the main struggles is probably being pigeonholed into something that I was maybe really good at doing, but I wanted to go beyond that and broaden my exposure. So I think one of the struggles and one of the things we really struggle with as an organization is understanding that just because somebody has trained as something or has a background in something, we want to try to acknowledge people who have the aptitude and attitude and acknowledge that they can basically grow anywhere within the industry and within our company if they have the right attitude and aptitude. But the pigeonholing is certainly a struggle and a challenge, and continues to be.
And so how did you manage that for you on a personal level? How were you able to manage, not being put in that box and just staying in that box?
Well, I think it was probably persisting and continuing to make a business case for why I could sort of expand my horizons and work on other projects, other areas of interest, and ultimately, when you're an able body and you're there and you don't screw up and you get the job done and get it done properly, you kind of get more opportunities and chances to work on things.
So Emily, over the last 5 to 7 years, leadership styles have been under the microscope. Specifically in the private sector and the public sector. So from your perspective as a leader in the private sector, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing leaders today?
I think one of the biggest challenges is acknowledging that as our workplace becomes more diverse, both in terms of gender, age, across the board, people have different ways and different styles of getting to the end goal. And as leaders, we have to acknowledge that, sometimes tailor our leadership strategy towards those of our team members, and not necessarily believe that there's only one way to get to the end goal.
So it's about understanding each other's responsibility of being accountable of how you could build a more inclusive workplace, right? Which is great. And I'm sure you're aware, at Matrix360, our key focus is to really elevate the importance of diversity and equity in the real estate space, specifically in the channels of leadership. And 3 years ago, Matrix we created a demographic survey because we wanted to understand the pulse of the people. We wanted to understand, what does the real estate space actually look like from the demographics standpoint. And I would love to share some tidbits that we pulled out from this data. And I'm going to also share with you some Canadian stats as well. Specifically in Ontario, in the urban centers, over 52% of the working population are women. It's huge, right? However, when we look at the commercial real estate and development space, there's less than 34% of women in senior leadership positions. There's an imbalance there. In Ontario, again, between 35% and 54% of the working population in the urban centers are people of color, while less than 25% are in leadership positions, right? So given that these high-level data points and your comments earlier in regards to understanding where we're all coming from and how we could create a more inclusive space that is going to be beneficial for all sides, what do you think is missing when it comes to leaders understanding the value add behind equity and diversity in the workplace? And what can we do better to encourage more and sustain more women in leadership and people of color in leadership?
So I think it really does go back to acknowledging that there are different styles and different approaches that we all have. So when it comes to women who are stepping up to leadership positions, for example, I know there's a number of studies that say that women will typically apply for a job that they know that they have a proven track record of being able to do, whereas most men will step up to the plate instantly, whether or not they have a track record or not. So from our perspective, as men and women in the industry, it's about acting as sponsors, encouraging younger people who have the aptitude and attitude and have the capability, encouraging them, whether they're men, women, of color, of whatever ethnic diversity, to step up to the plate, and acknowledging that different people respond to different stimuli. So where in a meeting a question may come up that would be something that would typically encourage a young Anglo-Saxon white male to respond because it's something to do with sports or whatever, we may want to try to encourage, broaden the conversation a little bit, and that may encourage some other people to step up to the plate. But I think really, as leaders, acting as sponsors and mentors for young people is the best way of encouraging.
Encouraging it. So it comes down to awareness, a champion, mentoring, which is a great thing. So one last question I would like to ask you. I could sit here for hours, actually, because we're only just touching the surface here. So thinking more, I guess, about your journey as a leader, and how you built your journey to this point. If you could go back in time, what one piece of leadership advice would you share with your younger self that you know now that you wish that you knew back then?
So I think one of the main pieces of advice I'd give is to take a risk and move forward when a problem is coming up. Run towards it, take decisive action, take control of the issue. I think that's an important thing to instill on team members as well, to identify problems and run towards them to rectify them, as opposed to having a sort of reactive approach to things and losing control of a situation.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's really, it's learning how to embrace and take risks, and believing in yourself, right? And jumping right in.
For sure,
right?
yeah.
And use curiosity, which is great. So thank you so much, Emily, for sharing your little journey with us.
Thanks, Chandran.
Truly appreciate it. I'm sure that many people who will have the opportunity to listen to this will be inspired. And if you're not, you need to check her LinkedIn. You need to connect with Emily at Crown. So to find out more information about the Real Leaders series, please do check out Informa Canada's social media. And thank you once again, Emily, for joining us.
Thanks, Chandran.